Welcome to the Gold Standard here on the 440 Sports Network, brought to you by Sinkers Beverages. I am Braden Gall, and you can get to me on Twitter. I'm still calling it Twitter, at Braden Gall.
And I'm Emma Lingan, and you can get to me on Twitter at Emma_Lingan.
And I'm Michael Gallagher. You can get to me on Twitter at MGSports_.
Look at that, guys. We took all summer. We went through our training camp and our preseason reps, and we came out of the gate during the regular season with perfect execution, much like Andrew Burnett wants to see on Thursday evening against the Dallas Stars, because hockey is back and it fights everyone. Emma, how are we doing this morning? Everybody good? Everybody excited?
Ready to fight everyone.
Of course, we got a lot of stuff planned for you guys today. We're going to put our officially official final predictions for the Predators in this particular hockey season into the time capsule, buried in the ground under 501 Broadway, and then we'll pull it back out at the end of the season and see what the hell we got right and what the hell we got wrong. But we're on the record today, so we'll make our official predictions on the team. Adam and I did on the Gold Standard Extra podcast, which you can get as a subscriber when you are a subscriber to Lower Broad Hockey. We did that. We did ours on Monday, so you can check that out. Go subscribe. Pay for good journalism, of course. Support the team. Emma and Michael are part of that as well. And a lot of good stuff over there on the website. We'll get to more on that in just a second. We'll do some individual predictions as well. We've got final rosters we'll dissect and break down in terms of what Andrew Burnett decisions he made. And, of course, who's the odd man out and why only 6 defensemen. So lots of some questions. UC Saros not at practice on Tuesday. According to the Predators, that was purely a maintenance day. So we'll see what happens there. Otherwise, we got a lot of stuff to get to. Preds TV future as well. Had a big story about that up on Bally's. We got an announcement up on Lower Broad Hockey about Bally's. We've got an announcement coming up in just a few minutes as well. Otherwise, Sinkers Beverages is our proud and amazing and awesome and wonderful sponsor. They've got this great gear. You can go get hats and all kinds of stocking stuffers for the holiday season coming up. They got lots of really great bar stuff, whether it's mixers or cups or thermoses or hats or whatever, like great stuff that you can give to an in-law or perhaps a colleague at work. All kinds of good stuff up there, along with all the great booze that they've got. They got a lot of beer, a lot of wine, a lot of champagne, a lot of bourbon, walk-in beer fridge, the whole deal. They got non-alcoholic stuff, so go check out Sinkers Beverages. Search Uber Eats, have the booze delivered directly to your house. They drive so you can drink. And of course, been serving the community for almost 40 years in East Nashville, 3-time liquor store of the year. Please go support good local businesses. So there you have it. All right. Get to us on Twitter if you're on YouTube and we're live today. You can, of course, give us a comment, jump into the comment section, thumbs up as well, share it on Twitter and Facebook. Go ahead and do that so we can get some folks in who want to talk some Preds hockey because the season is here. Anyone watch Utah Chicago? Anyone hate watch Connor Bedard? Anyone enjoy the fact that Utah won that game fairly easily in the third period? What'd you think of the crowd, the uniforms, the black sweaters? What do we think? Any reactions to the game last night?
I didn't watch it. I had it on for a few minutes, but then I realized like it's Chicago. I don't really care. But it was hockey. It was something to have on in the background. But yeah, I'm glad to see Utah won and not just won. 5-2 is kind of an ass whooping. Of course, Connor Bedard. I think everyone kind of expected him to have a multi-point night because he's Connor Bedard. But yeah, I think Utah's uniforms, for me, probably number 2 in the NHL behind Seattle. Like they're really sharp. I really like the look. I'm almost convinced to keep the Utah Hockey Club as the name just because it's so different. But also I hate non-uniformity in the league. It drives me crazy that it's not the Utah whatever the nickname is. So maybe by this time next year, if they keep Utah Hockey Club, I might like it. But yeah, the uniforms are great.
You must be very torn on this then.
I am. I can't stand non-uniformity, but also like I kind of like that it's different and it's bucking the trend. So I mean, I don't know. I'm very much going through cognitive dissonance right now.
I said from the beginning, I really liked Utah Hockey Club as a name. I said this from the beginning, and everyone said that it was boring and they hated it. I liked it. I will say begrudgingly that the uniforms do look very sharp. I personally have an issue with the color scheme only because it's a little too close to Carolina blue for my taste. But other than that,
that's a personal vendetta that all Wake Forest fans have. No
that's a me problem. That's definitely a me problem. But I mean, again, objectively as possible, they do look sharp.
Kevin says the Utah sister wives would rule. It's too early for jokes like that, Kevin. But well done. Well done. Cody says, being an Auburn and Titans fan, I'm so happy that hockey is back. Yeah, that's brutal. Auburn and Titans. That's a rough start to the fall for you, big guy. Pet peeve, Untitled Film Project podcast. I wonder who that is. Pet peeve, pet peeve. Utah is calling it their first win in franchise history. No, that franchise was Winnipeg and then Arizona, and now your team history. Thank you, Untitled Film Project. The Utah Storm and Mormons, also not terrible. Not terrible. We could do better than that. All right. So here's the thing. I agree with you guys. I really like Utah Hockey Club. It feels very non-traditional. It feels sort of left of center, West Coast, very European with the soccer hat tip there. Utah's out there. I think it's great. I think it's fine.
Their owner's out there. Ryan Smith is a wackadoo, man.
And I'm fine with leaning into that. I think it's great. Here's my question. I really like the uniforms too. I will probably like the white one better than the black one. But I think it's okay to be a little bit different at home. Is there any team in the NHL that has all, like, I know there's plenty of teams with black in their color palette, but how many of them have like black as the main primary home color? Am I forgetting somebody?
Carolina, Pittsburgh,
Kings,
Boston.
Kings are the Kings. No, but Boston's black. Carolina's black's not their primary color.
It is now. They changed it last year to where the black jerseys are their regular home jerseys.
The Kings are the one I was thinking of where it's like, I know it's black and purple, but it's like truly like black is their main color.
The Ducks were up until they rebranded.
Black and gold for everything in Pittsburgh is required by law. That's how that works, of course. But ultimately, I think the other ones look better. Here's my question to you guys. I like it a lot, the general palette. I am sort of like doubting my own appreciation of it because I liked Seattle's rollout so well. I think they did such a good job with their branding and their marketing and their scheme. I know that's an expansion franchise, but this is largely functioning like that as well from a branding standpoint. Is it too close to Seattle in terms of the color scheme and palette? Is that like, am I overthinking it? Overthinking this?
Yes, you are.
Yeah.
I don't think it's too close to Seattle.
Really? Even though it's like a light blue and a white and a black, it's kind of the same, right?
I mean, when you look at Seattle's, you can clearly tell it's navy.
Say that again, Mike?
Yeah.
When you look at Seattle's, you can clearly tell it's navy and then like a light blue and then a turquoise. When you look at Utah, you know that's black, white, and light blue.
That's fair. I mean, guys, it's not like purple and gold.
The similarities are there. I understand where you're going, but also like I feel like if we were to watch these two teams on the ice in both of those jerseys, we would be able to tell who they are, like tell them apart.
Of course. I feel like it was so successful that the NHL was like, let's do it again. That's how I feel about it. But and Cody agrees, too close for two new teams. The red on Seattle too also sets it apart, right? The little eye in the Kraken, the little touch of red there sets it off. Either way,
it's also the first year. We know the NHL will tinker with this, and that like there might be a silver version of the jersey or something. Like there's going to be other iterations of this jersey coming out.
Silver, that would be weird. I do love the road Seattle jersey. That's one of my favorites in the entire NHL. Okay. Just wanted to get that out of the way. Make sure you check out Lower Broad Hockey this week. One of the things you guys have been asking us about more than anything else, almost as much as anything on the ice itself, is how are you going to watch games? I did a lot of work on this. I'm not going to give it all away here on the free podcast. Go pay for good work at Lower Broad Hockey. But I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at it, but largely the thesis of my story after talking to a lot of folks around the league and with the organization and around Nashville in terms of media is that this is going to change for the Nashville Predators at some point. We don't know when that is. There's lots of information and details in the story to give you sort of a better sense of when that's going to be. But it's not sustainable the way it is functioning currently. That's the gist of the story. Again, lowerbroadhockey.com. Please go support us, and you can go read the whole thing there. Do you guys have any thoughts, any reaction to the story up on the website as of Wednesday morning?
I think my main thought is whoever is in charge of running the financial department for Diamond Sports Group and subsequently Bally Sports, they don't need to be working in sports anymore because they terribly mismanaged this entire fiasco. And it's just, I think the line you put in there was telling that it's easier for people in Charlotte to watch Predators games than it is for people in Nashville. Like that, when that's a big issue, like what are you doing here?
Yeah. And I mean, that's not specific to the Nashville market either. I mean, that's everywhere. It's it's the same thing. My parents live in North Carolina. I can get Predators games at their house, but I can't get them at my apartment, which is less than a mile from Bridgestone Arena. So, and that, again, that's become an issue with the blackout restrictions and everything else. And, it all comes down to money. All this stuff always does. And I think that, ever since I was at the Predators 2 years ago, they were talking about, yeah, this needs to change. But there was really like no real path forward. It's like, okay, we all agree that this is a bad setup and it needs to change. But there was no real like, okay, here's what it needs to change to. And it sounds like we're getting at least a little bit closer to that.
Yep.
Which is good to see because the current setup is not sustainable.
What I don't get is why hasn't the NHL come out with their own version of NFL Sunday Ticket? Like that would just solve everyone's issues.
Or MLB TV.
Yeah. It's very simple. The solution is very easy. It's right in front of everybody.
Well, I don't think. Well, and it's interesting. I talked to some folks about the Apple deal with MLS, and the Apple deal does not, for MLS, it's great for MLS fans. And I agree with this. It's very high level production value. It's consistent. It's all in one place. You know exactly where to get it and how to get it. But it does not grow your audience, and it does not put your product in front of more new fans. It doesn't. And that is the concern, is that you're not going to put the product in front of more new fans. Hockey is not football. Football, you can charge a whole lot of money for people because they're going to watch every game in every market all the time. They're going to have it on. They're going to have Red Zone on. Hockey's not that way. You have to give it away for free to as many people as possible to try to grow your brand. And that is ultimately why it's going to change. The reason it's going to change, and I put all the details in the story. There are now, to your point, Emma, it's all about money to some degree, but it's all about money long term, which is tied to brand building in the market, which is tied to giving your product to as many people as possible, as easily as possible. And cable does not do that anymore, especially when it's only on one of the cable providers in the market. They're covering 35 to 40% of the city right now. That's unacceptable. And paying $25 or $26 or $18 a month for the app that's prohibitive for a lot of folks that want to watch the games and don't have that kind of resources each month to pay for it. So
the product you're paying for isn't good either. Like the Bally app or whatever, it's not. You talk about high production value with the MLS and Apple. Yeah. Bally is not that.
And something with Amazon too, that I was researching this back when I worked at Yardbarker because I was working on a story that never got published. But talking to some people with Amazon, basically they think that if they add like the NHL or something like a lower league, perceived as a lower tier league like that, they're going to lose money on it. So they want to establish a foothold in the sports market with MLB, NFL, whatever it is, where they want to have a strong like signature sports league before they start bringing in lower leagues that they think they're going to lose money on. But they want to do it because ultimately Amazon wants to be in the sports market.
They want to be in the live event market. They hired Brian Williams, I believe, to do live coverage of the election night on their platform. They want to be in live production because guess where all the money is for advertising? It's in live production. And I think Amazon, what's interesting is like $150, $200 million for Amazon to be a part of this, which would be great for the NHL from a revenue standpoint, just sort of throwing that all around. That is literally like 6 minutes of revenue on a Tuesday for Amazon. Like they could reach in, Jeff Bezos could reach into last night's jeans and pull out $150 million. Like, not to be, pithy about the amount of money it is, but like Amazon, it's nothing. It's a rounding error on a Tuesday for Amazon. So a lot of questions here in the in the chat. Seth James says, Braden, my brother in Christ, please shave that mustache. No, my wife likes it. All right. It's one of the only things she likes about me. So I'm keeping it. And Kevin says, yes, takes a confident man to rock the porn stash. Keep it there. Dark says, let's see here. I remember that they had something like that with the NHL Network in the late 2010s. I do not recall that. Do either of you recall what he's talking about there? But it had blackout restrictions. Let's see here. Josh says, do you have any idea, guess on what the ratings jump could be if they went with a free over-the-air option? This I kind of actually do have a general guess for. If it's about 35 to 40% coverage of the market currently with just Bally Sports on Xfinity, basically, you're probably looking at double that. Is what I think the estimates are going to be, which is you can probably get to 70 to 80% of the market with over-the-air broadcast, which is just picking it up off rabbit ears, picking it up off regular TV tuners, and you would get it for free in your house. If you have a TV plugged into the wall, that's sort of all you need. And I think they could double that. And I got some quotes from Gary Bettman in the story as well, saying ratings for some of these teams that have left RSNs are up 5 or 6 fold, and the revenue is up. This is a no-brainer, y'all. Like this is going to happen. The question is when and how soon for Nashville. One thing I did not put in the story that I'll give to you guys now is that Nashville is one of the more profitable and lucrative contracts for the RSNs. They are one of the higher paid teams and they actually are one of the more successful products of all the other NHL teams, which is why they may hold on a little bit longer with Bally's, whether that's this year or next year. I don't know. There's only 3 more years left on the contract, y'all. So it's coming. It's going to change, and everyone's going to get more hockey, and that'll be better for the Preds, better for the fans, better for everybody. So there you go. Go check it out. lowerbroadhockey.com is the website. Good. I love working on like media stuff and doing all the in the weeds on distribution. I love all that nerdy stuff. So I had a lot of fun working on it. Hope you guys enjoy it. Hope it gives you guys all some insight as to the direction that we're going. Okay. I had a chance to go down to practice, first ever practice with the final new roster for the Nashville Predators on Tuesday of this week. And we're going to hear from 2 guys, Jonathan Marchessault and Steven Stamkos, by the way. And you can hear this in the background, I think, of the Stamkos video where Michael McCarron is standing next to him at his locker. And he's like, is this Montreal? Like, what? Look at all these TV cameras. And he's right. I've not seen so many TV cameras at the first practice of a Preds season in a long time. I don't know. You guys have been to these practices before. There's a different level of interest in the city on this team, which is great news for the Nashville Predators. So,
yeah, it's funny that he said Montreal because without fail, every time the Preds play Montreal, Mike McCarron has a crowd of cameras around him because he was a first round pick for Montreal. And it's like, even if that year he hasn't done anything notable, doesn't matter. They're always crowded around him. So that was a funny callback.
Sure, like Yossi and Forsberg and Sissons and Saros, I think those are the only guys left from the Cup team. I'm sure they have PTSD from PK Subban's first practice because, my God, you could not get into that room. There were so many cameras. There were so many reporters. It was ridiculous.
PK probably loved that.
Oh, yes, he did. So a lot of talk, right? A lot of interest. TV cameras are there. All this unusual coverage. We've talked about expectations, but very different approaches, I think, from everybody. Even the story I wrote a couple of weeks ago, different approaches from everybody. And so, obviously, both Marchessault and Stamkos were asked about these expectations, and 2 very different answers. So we'll hear from. Let's hear from Steven Stamkos first. He's the one who got done first, and he got mobbed. If you can get mobbed in a Predators locker room, it was hard to get in with him. But here was Steven Stamkos' response to sort of how he's handling all the preseason expectations.
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing to talk about it. I mean, to say it out loud and know what our goal is coming into the season, that adds some fuel. And no question, expectations have been raised for this group that was already really good last year. And we got some guys that have come in the summer, and we're looking forward to just building off that group. We're not looking to come in here and do anything crazy. We're looking to be good teammates, be the players that management expects us to be, as to why we got brought in here, and be part of a great team. Getting to know the guys over the course of the last month has been really good. And, exciting.
There was McCarron at the end. Those are the most cameras I've ever seen. Michael, I might need to use your mic or get a new mic or something. There's a lot of noise going on in the locker room. But my favorite, I love the line. I don't have any problem with talking about it. I think that's a great way to look at it. Doesn't mean it's the right thing for everybody, but I think it's, for a guy who's played 16 years as a Hall of Famer, I think it's fine to say, I think it's okay to talk about this. I love that approach from Stamkos.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like the same idea as when he was first signed and came and did his first media availability, and he said the thing like, yeah, we want to win a Stanley Cup. And it's like, let's put it out there. Let's talk about it. Let's not act like it's, the Voldemort thing, who shall not be named. Like, let's actually, I think, like, speak it into existence.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it last week. It's so refreshing to see a player, kind of go against the typical coach speak answer. And I love when players are like that. Like, everyone has expectations that this team is at least going to be probably a conference final team, if not a Stanley Cup contending team. Like, why act like they're not? Like, let's be real. We're all adults here. Like, I love that Stamkos is like, yeah, I want to talk about this, because those are the expectations. And at the end of the year, if they don't meet those expectations, then you have to be held accountable. So, I mean, I think it's great. Like, Nashville, except for the 2017 season, I would say Nashville hasn't really played with high expectations. Like, no one has really expected them to make a lot of noise in the playoffs, except for, the year they won the President's Trophy. So I think it's great.
I mean, this is the most anticipated season of Preds hockey maybe ever. I think certainly since the beginning of the 2016 season, and that comes with everything. And so why try to ignore it? And it's not that the guys who are saying no, hey, because we'll hear from. How about this? We'll play Jonathan Marchessault's answer to that question too, which has a slightly different approach to it. But I don't think it's right or wrong. I just think it's a different sort of approach, and I think it's a different message. So here was Marchessault show in the locker room after Stamkos had already talked.
We're still all new players. We're gonna have to find connection and find how it goes out there. You know, like for us new guys coming in, it's a new system and everything. So it's on us to adapt as quick as possible. And I mean, I don't expectation. It's like people think that we have to be good by the end of the year. I just think of let's think of Thursday, you know, and think of Thursday, go one game at a time and see where it brings us. Because every year there's teams that are supposed to be good and then teams that are supposed to not be good, and they surprise a lot of people, and they're like Nashville last year, you know. So it's different every year, and it's whoever wants to come in together and buy in their system and be able to get some wins as fast as we can.
So there are two of the new stars there, two of the new forwards, and in their first real practice of the regular season with more media around since the final roster was set. I think there's sort of like everyone has to do the one game. You start talking about cup or playoffs with any player, and they immediately are like, well, okay, hold on. It's the beginning of the season. We got to go one game. Let's worry about Thursday. There is a larger picture thing, though, that happens as a human being, like Stamkos was saying. So I don't think Jonathan was saying anything different there. Like, there's a lot of great teams that end up bad. There's a lot of bad teams that end up great, and you're not going to know who they are. We got to just focus on Thursday. And so I think both messages are correct, but you know, they all know, like, that's why they play hockey, is to try to win a championship.
Yeah. And I think he's still, it doesn't have to be like just one or the other. I think it's like, yes, we plan to contend for a Stanley Cup, but yes, that starts with Thursday. Right. Like it doesn't have to be one or the other.
It was kind of scary to me because when you first put that clip on, he looked strangely like Anthony Beauvillier, and I was just like, "Oh no, did Braden play the wrong clip?" But yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I mean, obviously,
I didn't see him in the locker room on Tuesday.
Yeah, that's strange. Very key part of this team. Yeah, But yeah, I mean, obviously, we know you can't win the Stanley Cup on night one. We know it's a game by game thing, which is why, like, I can't stand when everyone's like, "Oh yeah, we got Thursday first and then worry about it." Like, obviously we know that, but don't ignore the elephant in the room. You guys have Stanley Cup expectations now. Like, does that affect you? Like, there's a lot of questions that come along with that.
Yeah, I agree. So here's the thing I learned through all these different questions about expectations. The story I worked on 2 weeks ago, like, everybody's going to approach it differently in their own way, but they all sort of are getting the same message from the top down, and they all sort of know the job. And so, but at the end of the day, they all agree with one thing. We want the pressure. We want the expectations. And I didn't put this in the story, but Evangelista was like, way better than the other way around. Like, nobody wants to be San Jose coming into the season where everyone's like, like, no one wants to be that way. And so you got to relish it. You got to lean into it. I think Steven Stamkos said that pretty openly, the very first sentence of his media availability on his very first practice of the very first, regular season day of like, I don't know. It's okay, guys. We don't have to. Sometimes people treat professional athletes and coaches like they're not human beings also. Like they have phones, they read stuff, they're human beings, they have ears, they know what's going on, and they want to win a championship. So that's good stuff. All right, we'll get to team expectations, our official predictions, individual expectations, thoughts on the Stars game this weekend. Of course, got a couple of games coming up. But I do want to say, first of all, Sinkers Beverages. Make sure you check out our great and awesome, amazing people and friends over at Sinkers Beverages. Bluegrass Beverages up in Michael's territory up there in Hendersonville. Of course, Bluegrass Beverages has been serving that community for over 50 years. It's a lot of booze. They know what they're doing. Go check them out. Great local business supporting that community. And of course, Sinkers in East Nashville. So check those guys out. I got a new announcement though, because we have a brand new proud sponsor in the show. And I'm going to have to cut the camera off for a second because I don't want anyone to see how bad the top of my head looks currently. Is that okay? Can I do that?
Sure.
We'll allow it.
Here we go. Can I hear some drum roll or something?
I was like, do you want us to riff? Like
sound effects. Do some sound effects. All right, there we go. Hat change. Shotgun Willie's. Shotgun Willie's. It's 10 minutes from Bridgestone Arena. Not like 7 miles from Bridgestone Arena on Briley Parkway in Madison, right off of Gallatin Pike. It's very accessible for anybody in the city. It is the best brisket in town. Pitmaster Bill, my guy, loves the community, supports the community. Great local business, which is all about what we do here at 440 and at Lower Broad and the Gold Standard. And there's nobody really in Tennessee that can cook a cow right. You know what I mean? Like lots of good pork. I'm sure you have some opinions about North Carolina barbecue and Tennessee barbecue, but neither North Carolina or Tennessee can cook a cow like a guy from Texas. Can we all agree on that? I feel like that's fair.
Yeah, that's fair.
By the way, don't tell anybody from South Carolina, but I'm vinegar based all the way. None of that mustard shit that's happening in South Carolina. North Carolina all the way. Brisket, though. If you want brisket and ribs, check out Shotgun Willie's, y'all. I'm serious. It is the best spot. They got great cornbread, great sides, big open space. They just moved to the new location where I was telling you guys they're located. Go check them out. Pitmaster Bill does a great job, and they're fantastic. So, yes, Nate, adding that to your restaurant list in the phone. There you go. As a Texan living in North Carolina, I miss Texas barbecue, says Dark. That's right. This guy does it right, man. He cooks brisket better than anybody else. So go check it out. There it is. And this is how he wants to be known. I know this is a hockey show, but he's a Houstonian who's lived in Nashville for like 10 years. Shotgun Willie's, the official barbecue of the Houston Oilers.
No words.
He's a lost football fan who has no allegiances to the Texans, but hates Bud Adams and the Titans, kind of. He likes the Titans. He doesn't like Bud Adams because he left Houston. So he loves the Houston Oilers. He loves Warren Moon and Haywood Jeffries and all those guys. He's kind of
even loving the Titans is sad right now. So
they're 1-0 in the last week. So
okay,
there we go. 2 weeks. Friend of the pod, Shotgun Willie's and Sinkers Beverages. There we go. All right. Thank you. Welcome to the show, Shotgun Willie's. What a great name too, by the way.
We're an anti-Titan show here as well.
Well, you're Niners, you're Steelers, and I'm Packers, right?
Very eclectic.
Yeah. Those are three pretty big brands in the NFL. So it's all right. Maybe the Titans can beat the Colts this weekend. We'll see. All right. So let's get into first of all, what do you want to see from the Dallas game, and what do you make of the roster? The line rushes on Tuesday. Juuso Parssinen was the odd man out. Jankowski was in there. So it seems like maybe Parssinen was the odd man out, but he was being used a lot on penalty kill. They are only carrying 6 defensemen. I'm assuming that's because Spencer Stasny's situation will be worked out at some point in the very near future. What do you make of the final roster decisions, and what do you make of what we're going to see on Thursday night against Dallas?
Yeah, I'm not totally surprised if Parssinen ends up as the odd man out. I think just with what we've seen from Brunette and last year, sort of like his hesitation to trust a lot of the younger players with big roles. And we know that fourth line, that identity line is kind of a big role. And I've talked about this a lot before, that Mark Jankowski kind of like, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but almost like a poor man's Colton Sissons. Like, I think he's one of those guys, you can put him out there, you know what you're going to get from him. You can put him in any situation and he will be fine. Like, he'll be serviceable. And I think that, yes, Parssinen may have the higher upside, but there's less predictability with him in there. And so I think that Jankowski's had a really good camp too, I've thought. And so I think that swap out doesn't totally surprise me. Just, conversely, it wouldn't shock me if Jankowski was the odd man out either. I think that those two guys are kind of they're like the best fits on that line either way. So.
Yeah, I think Jankowski kind of matches McCarron and Smith a little bit better than Parssinen does. However, Parssinen does have the higher upside, probably a little bit more scoring ability. And to me, what that shows is, at least for now, Brunette and Trotz want to go with age and experience over upside and youth. And I mean, when you have a team with Stanley Cup expectations, like we talked about, like, it makes sense. I mean, also too, like Jankowski, I mean, any of these guys could get injured. You already have Parson right there. Yep. Hope that doesn't happen, but it's nice to have the extra guy on the bench. And what I really liked about what Trotz said yesterday was, everyone was freaking out when Delgaizo was put on waivers and he wasn't claimed, and he ended up getting through to Milwaukee, and everyone was kind of freaking out because we still don't know what's going on with Spencer Stastny, and the team is very tight-lipped about it. No one is giving any details on what's going on with him. We don't know if he's injured. We don't know if he's got some personal issues. Like no one knows what's going on with him. So we still don't know where he's going to be. But I think the expectation was if Stastny wasn't on the opening night roster, that Delgado would take his place. Delgado was in Milwaukee, and I like what Trotz said. He was like, we would rather have our seventh defenseman playing regularly, and we can call him up and he would be ready than having him kind of sit on the bench. Because we saw that last year when I believe it was Tyson Barrie and Dante Fabro were kind of the regulars on the bench, and they rotated in. And you saw when they would go into the lineup, like they were rusty because they would go a week, 2 weeks without playing. And then when you have players, especially a key position like defense, when you have players that are going a week or two long stretches without playing and the rusty, like it affects everybody else. Roman Josi has to cover for somebody. Like it affects too many things. So it makes sense to have Delgado in Milwaukee playing regular minutes on top pairing. And I think the opening night roster was kind of what we all expected. I expected it, but I'm still a little surprised that Tomasino made the opening night roster just because it seemed like he was in Brunette's doghouse all of last year. But I mean, he's had a hell of a camp, and it looks like the Evangelista Sissons Tomasino line, they look like the real deal. Like that could be Nashville's best third line in years, probably since the Cup team. So I mean, looking at the forward combinations, like I think it's a really solid group.
Yeah, and certainly the most talented third line from a goal scoring standpoint. There's no question about that.
I mean, you have two wingers with Evangelista and Tomasino that could easily put up 40 to 50 points.
Yeah, I mean, Tomasino made the team, and it wasn't close. Like it's not close. Like he's got a starting spot on the third line, and right now he's clearly on the second power play unit, which when they worked on the power play a lot on Tuesday. And Evangelista, Tomasino, Novak.
And also shout out to him too, because that shows that he really took all of the harsh words that were said about him throughout the end of the regular season and into the postseason. He really took what I believe it was Trotz or Brent, one of them in the season ending press conference was like, yeah, he's got a lot of work to do. We're hopeful, but he's got a lot of work to do. And that shows that he took that to heart and he did the work.
You think he went full Boston goaltender during the contract negotiation and just wrote down every single thing they said? It was like, this is what they're saying about me. Also, he hasn't played a game yet, so let's not go crazy.
I can see him pulling an Amon St. Brown and writing down the 16 things, all the things or whatever that like, oh, they said this and this. He's got like a little checklist.
Yeah, the Amon St. Brown story is he's a wide receiver out of USC, drafted by the Lions in like the 4th round, and he was drafted like he was the 17th wide receiver drafted, and he has a list of all 16 ahead of him. One of them is Des Fitzpatrick by the Tennessee Titans. Whoops.
And he reads that list before every game as motivation, which I admire the determination and I admire the absurd pettiness of that.
Well, and he's like, that dude is a worker, man. His dad's like a world-class like bodybuilding champion or whatever. Speaks like multiple languages. I'm on St. Brown. Fascinating dude. The 2-on-2 defense pairings. I'm curious what you guys think about this during practice. Josi Fabro, which we saw in the postseason a little bit last year. Obviously, Carrier Lozon. I think it's nice to have those two back together. And then Shea and Shen, the line. What do we make of those three pairings? Not exactly what we necessarily had penciled in, but pretty close.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, again, Spencer Stastny being here would solve everything, but I think that it's hard, right?
Whose slot is he taking? Is he playing with Shea?
No, I'm saying you would put Shea on the top pair with Josi, and then Stastny would play on the third pair with Shen. Because
and then Fabro's out?
Yes, as much as I like Fabro, I like Dante Fabro a lot. I really do. And I wish there was a world in which he could be. I mean, there is now a world. He is a starting defenseman. But I mean, like with Shen, or not with Shen.
We are currently living in it, Emma.
I'm living in a simulation right now, guys. I wish there was a world with Stastny on the roster that Fabro would also be a starter, is what I meant. But
well,
so
I know what you're doing there. You're pushing somebody out of the lineup.
I'm not saying a damn thing. I don't know what you're talking about, but
played in a lot of games.
The point is, I think Dante Fabro and Roman Josi, no one likes to talk about it, but they are a very effective pairing. And I know Preds fans like to dunk on Fabro and they hate Fabro for some reason. And like, I mean, I get it. He never quite took off offensively the way that, he was supposed to when he came in as a rookie. But honestly, if he's paired with Roman Josi, you don't need that. And so I think that if you have both of them as starting defensemen, it is hard to justify splitting them up. Now, on the flip side of that, I think why are you paying Brady Shea $7 million a year and putting him on the third line with Luke Shen? It doesn't really make sense there, like mathematically. But I think that if you look at, who plays which side, et cetera, there's really nowhere else to put him unless you're splitting up Lauzon and Carrier, which also doesn't seem like the best idea because those two have they have really good chemistry. Plus, I would think that you would want to split up the size a little bit and the physicality, and like Jeremy Lauzon, Luke Shen are very similar defensemen in terms of their playing style. So I would rather split them up, but it's hard. There's no like easy answer here.
Yeah, Dante Fabro has the unfortunate circumstances of not being as fast or as good of a skater as Spencer Stastny, not being as physical as Luke Shen, which is why if Stastny is healthy, Fabro is going to be the guy that gets healthy scratch. But Emma's right. Like for the last 2 years, consistently, I don't have the exact numbers, but Roman Josi and Dante Fabro, when they have played together, have been the Preds' most effective defensive pairing. So I'm okay with that. Do I think Dante Fabro is a top pairing defenseman in the NHL? No. With Roman Josi, it's a different story because Josi can kind of make up for some of his flaws. And also something I think is a little bit overlooked there too. Like as great as Josi and Shea would be together, keeping Fabro with Josi, that allows Josi to stay at his natural position on the left side and not move him over to the right side playing out of position, which I know he's just as good playing on the right side, but I would rather have a player of Josi's caliber playing what he's used to, what he's comfortable with. And I don't think you can break up Carrier and Lauzon just because they were so effective. And I agree. I don't think it's a long-term solution. I don't think you're going to pay Shea $7 million a year to babysit Luke Shen on the third pairing. I think once Spencer Stastny comes back, or if eventually it's announced that he's going to Milwaukee or he's injured or whatever's going on with that, then maybe Del Gaizo comes up and there's like a bigger rotation of players and stuff. But I think the defense it's not an issue. I think it's just a question because we saw how much this team struggles when it takes them a while to get that chemistry and to gel together. So that's the only thing I worry about is the musical chairs on the defense. How is that going to impact the rest of the team? Because if one part of this team is off, the entire team is off.
So Andrew, we asked Andrew Burnett about sort of learning about the team, and honestly, Brian Callahan for the Titans talked a lot about this. It takes time. It takes games. You can't figure it out in practice. You can't figure it out in camp. You got to figure it out in games. And when the NHL, you have a lot more time. You have a lot more opportunity, a lot more data to collect in terms of in the form of games, whereas in the NFL, you don't. You got to make quicker adjustments. You have known commodities. With Lauzon and Carrier, it's a known commodity. With Fabro and Josi, it's a known commodity. You know what Shea is. You kind of know what Shen is. You don't know what they are together, but we'll see. I honestly would not call it a third pairing. I think it's more like 1, 2A, 2B. And I bet you the minutes are probably close unless after you start playing games and Burnett learns about these pairings and sees what he has, it's clear that it doesn't work with Shea and Shen. I'm not ready to go there yet. I think it's smart to break up Lauzon and Shen. I think that's right. I think it's smart to go with known commodities. I think that's right. And I think for the time being, when you have 82 more games to play, I think Shea and Shen might end up being like, I think on paper, there might be the second pairing, honestly. And so we'll see. I think, you can put Lauzon and Carrier out there for specific situations, right? And get what you need out of them and know what they are. And maybe instead of like, I don't know, what is a typical third pair? What did the third pairing get last year in terms of minutes? Like 10, 11 minutes, 9 minutes? What's the total number there? I could see the second pairing and the third pairing gap of minutes being much closer and just being almost even at that point.
Yeah, well, and you also have to think about that's just even strength minutes. Like you got to look at like different guys are going to have different roles. Like Lauzon, Carrier are going to be really important on the penalty kill. But then you have Brady Shea, who's going to be quarterbacking that second power play unit. So like it's going to vary a little bit based on that. So I think, and I've said this from the beginning, I think Brady Shea's biggest impact on the Predators is going to be on special teams rather than on 5-on-5.
And they had Luke Shen driving the rushes yesterday in practice. He never passed. He was only shooting. And I'm like, I don't think he's going to quarterback the power play. I think that's Brady Shea.
The third pairing defenseman last year played between 15 and 16 minutes. So Shen was at 15-11. Stastny was at 16 minutes. And then Del Gaizo was at 16 and a half minutes.
And Yossi's at like 24, right? Like 25. Like Josi pairing.
Josi, 24, 37.
Josi and McDonough were always like the top two.
McDonough was at 22, yeah.
Yeah, I could see it being like 20, instead of being like a 23, like 18, 14, I could see it being like 23-16-16. You know what I mean? Like being a little bit more balanced, because if you have 3 pairings that you feel more comfortable with, you're going to use them more. And I think Shea is, you have to have Shea on the ice as much as possible. I mean, as much as he, a second line pairing would be. So I don't know. We'll see what happens there. All right. That's anything else about the Stars? Just want to see a good hockey game, celebrate the start of the season. Hockey fights everyone, which will be just our theme of the year.
Hockey fights everyone. I'm excited.
And I forgot to write. It's crazy. I forgot to write this down. They do play Saturday at Detroit and Tuesday against Seattle. I'm like, oh, I forgot. We got to talk about more than just one hockey game because the season's here. What do you want to see when we get back together next Wednesday? What do you want to see from the 3-game stretch?
I would like to see, specifically in the Stars game, I would like to see Matt Duchene not score, because I don't want to deal with fans bitching about Matt Duchene not still being in Nashville. It was the right decision then. It's still the right decision now.
But it's good for content, though.
I'm here for the pettiness. Yeah. I love it. And like, I don't disagree about it being the right decision to get rid of Matt Duchene, but I still live for the pettiness. So I'm hoping for it.
There's a strong
all pettiness towards Emma.
There's
Emma and Braden on Twitter.
I don't know, Mike. There's a strong petty factor with all 3 of us.
No, I know, but specifically with Matt Duchene, send all Matt Duchene vitriol towards Emma and Braden.
This is the internet. It's driven.
I don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it.
Driven by petty. That's what the internet is fueled by pettiness and your rage. That's what it's fueled by. All right. I want to do official predictions for the team. We're going to put them in the ground, official, and we'll be held accountable for the end of the year. We'll pull them back out and we'll check on them. But I also want to talk some individual predictions as well. So here's what I want to know. Like, I want to think outside the box on this. Certainly we can do some statistical stuff, but I want to know what some individual predictions are going to be. I'll give you some examples coming up in a second, but shout out to our 2 great and amazing, awesome local sponsors, Sinkers Beverages in East Nashville, Liquor Store of the Year 3 times in a row. It's pure domination. I don't remember the last time Gretzky won 3 in a row. I don't even know the last time an NHL team won 3 in a row. But Sinkers Beverages does it routinely. And Shotgun Willie's, best brisket in town, real Texas barbecue made by a real Texas pitmaster who also lives in Nashville for the last 10 years and has been cooking meat for 35 years. He's got you covered. It's not even 10 minutes from downtown. Shoot up Ellington Parkway. Don't tell anybody about that road. It's a hidden gem in the city. You can shoot up to Briley Parkway as well. It's right there in Madison and East Nashville, kind of the border there of the Briley Parkway line. Fantastic food. Great place for lunch. It's one of those barbecue joints, by the way, guys. It opens at 11 and it's closed at 3 or until they're done selling food. Like the food runs out. That's the kind of barbecue joint you like. A place that has no, like they're not holding the meat till later that night for the dinner crowd. You know what I mean? Like it's just there. It's just there. Sean says Shotgun Willie's is the best. There you go. Kevin says, will Duchene be playing? What does that say? Will Duchene be playing a set at the 5 spot following the game? That's a good reference there, Kevin. I like that. Guitars were a big part of the courting process when he was thirst trapping, trying to get his way to Nashville. All right.
I will neither confirm nor deny what Matt Duchene was doing last night when the Stars got into town.
Arrived. Okay, so if I just throw out stuff, you'll be able to confirm or deny or not deny?
No,
was he on Lower Broad?
No, he was not on Lower Broad, but he was engaging in the sort of activities that you might expect.
I'm shocked by that.
Yeah. And that me saying it that way makes it sound like it was like illegal activities. It wasn't. No. It was like,
just bacchanalia.
He was embracing his
some debauch
identity. Yeah.
Some debauching.
Yeah.
I'd like to know what neighborhood he was. It's got to be the Gulch. It's got to be the Gulch. He's got to be just debauchery in the Gulch is what it's got to be. Okay.
Sounds like the Nashville Post.
Yeah. Oh, hey, they're a different location these days. They're no longer in the ugliest building in the Gulch. Shout out to Gover, by the way, and Emma's podcast. All right. Here's some individual predictions before we get to our team predictions. I'll give you a couple here just to give you an example. And I said this on the episode with Adam on Gold Standard Extra on Monday. There's 2 that I feel pretty strongly about. And one of them is that I think, and I'm going to do some work on trying to figure out like what exactly the reason is behind all of this, but I don't think they're going to keep UC Saros from leading the NHL in starts again. It's been like 63, 64, 64, something like that, leading the league in 3 straight years. We keep asking the same question about UC Saros. He's been hurt going into one postseason. I don't think it cost him the series, but it certainly cost him a chance at the series a couple of years ago when he could not play against Colorado. I don't think they're going to change. I think UC Saros is going to start 64, 65 times, and we're going to be having the exact same conversation. He's going to be fine. He's going to be better than last year, but we're going to have the exact same conversation at the end of the year in like March, where we're going to be like, don't you think it's smart that UC Saros gets some rest? I think we're at the exact same spot, and he's their guy. They got to ride or die with him, and that's how they feel about it. And I don't know if he's capable. I don't know if it's the right thing. I'm going to work on trying to figure out what the calculus is by them on this. Not trusting the backup. I don't know, but I think we're going to ask the same questions and they're going to do the same thing. That's one of my predictions for individual players this year. That's one of them. So thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think you're far off on that at all. My Saros related prediction is that I think he will be a Vezina finalist this year.
I don't have a Saros related prediction, but I think you're both right.
All right. My other one is I think Tommy Novak has an outstanding season, and he sets a personal best for everything. He sets all kinds of personal records, and he's playing, they're putting a guy that's not even played a full first NHL season yet on a line with a Hall of Famer and a borderline Hall of Famer, and they're saying, go get it done. And I think it's a lot. He's a fascinating character in this whole story of the Nashville Predators. I think he's got the best. I think he has a great season. And we're still asking some of the same questions in the spring about him in the playoffs and the size and the physicality. Does he wear down over time? Is he capable of holding up at that point? But I think he has a great regular season. I don't know what happens in the postseason, but I think he breaks every single personal best this season playing on that second line. I think he sticks there for a big chunk of the season. There'll be some times where maybe he misses for injury, but I think he has. I think he's going to have a quote unquote breakout season, best season of his career, sets records. And then we still have some questions when he goes up against big physical second line centers in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good job.
I got to just on after both of your reactions to that. I got a text message from somebody who owns a bunch of restaurants in town who says, I'm paraphrasing here, but my favorite thing that happens on the Gold Standard is when you ask a question and it's met with crickets from Emma and Michael. So people are noticing that you guys are on a podcast. I ask a question or make a statement and you do nothing.
If you ask a question, there will be a response, but you're just making a statement.
It's a conversation.
I don't have anything to add. I think you're right. I'm agreeing with you. I've never seen someone so hostile towards other people that are agreeing with them.
This is not hostility. This is like when my daughter's like, quit yelling at me. I'm like, sweetie, I'm not yelling at you. I'll show you yelling. No, I want to know what you think about Tommy Novak. That's all.
I can see what you said happening. The skeptic in me just doesn't think he sticks on the second line all season. I think he ends up getting replaced by Colton Sissons, or maybe they move Stamkos to center. I just don't
see. That's an interesting take.
I don't see Tommy Novak sticking as the two center for 82 games, maybe like half the season. But I don't know. Maybe just because I'm not a believer in him. I think watching him get ragdolled against Vancouver really set him back in my mind. And maybe I'm being too harsh on him. I don't know. I don't think he's really hit the weight room and gotten any bigger. I know not every team they play is Vancouver. He's not going to get pushed around like he did in that playoff series, but I just wonder if the headspace is right for Tommy Novak to carry the second line, because there are expectations now when he's playing, like you said, you're playing with a Hall of Famer, playing with a Conn Smythe trophy winner. You have 2 40-goal scorers on both sides of you. If you don't put up 50, 60 points, you're going to be failing at your job. So there's pressure on him because he's in the best situation he's ever been in. So,
yep, I agree.
Yeah, I don't know. I could honestly see it going either way. With him, I'm hopeful that it does work out and that it sticks. But I also would not be the least bit surprised if he ends up swapping with Sissons and going down to the third line.
And I add that too, just because you know what you're getting with Sissons. Tommy Novak is still a wild card. And we can sit here and talk about how great his camp was and everything he's done. And like he's set up in the best position to be successful. He's still a wild card. We don't know. We've had 2 40-point seasons from him. He had a lot of injuries last year. He's played with I don't know how many different line combinations over the last 2 seasons. Like you still don't know. He could go out and he could do what Braden said and he can put up a monster season. And He can prove me wrong, or he could end up being replaced by Colton Sissons 10 games into the season, because if you put Sissons as your second line center with Stamkos and Marchessault, that line's going to produce. So it's a toss up.
Not necessarily related, but he is significantly larger than Jonathan Marchessault, who standing next to him for the first time, I was like, oh, you're not very tall. he's listed at 5'9". That's not a large person, but he is tough as nails. I'll give him that. All right, what about you guys? Give me some. It can be statistical related. It could be, storyline related. Give me some individual player predictions before we get to our official team picks for the year.
I think you're going to love one of mine. The other one I think is not controversial, but I think it's the one that I think happens, and almost happened last year, is I think Ryan O'Reilly breaks the franchise record for power play goals. Sorry.
Ooh.
He had 14 last year. And when you talk about adding in Stamkos and Marchessault and Shea and whatever, like we think the power play on paper is going to be a lot better this year. If he produced 14 power play goals last year, with as bad as the power play was, you're infusing more talent around him. When you have Stamkos on the power play, he's going to command most of the attention. So I think that's going to open up Ryan O'Reilly to have a lot more looks, and I think he can easily get that 16-17 power play goal mark. And then my other one, I think Luke Evangelista is going to be between 55 and 60 points. I think he's really going to have a breakout year. And maybe I'm just overvaluing what I've seen in camp with his line with Sissons and Tomasino, but I think that line has a lot of serious potential. And we saw how aggressive Evangelista was towards the end of the season. I think a switch has flipped where he's got a shooter's mentality more as trying to be a playmaker. And I think that's going to translate into a bunch of points.
I mean, he had 55, 60-point flow going on yesterday after practice. And I'm 42. I don't get jealous of any grown man, but damn it. That lettuce is ridiculous. 60-point lettuce on that guy's head. All right. I don't disagree with either of those. I think those are good picks. The power play, by the way, is Bruno is spending a lot of time. I can't believe I just said that. Andrew Brunette is spending a lot of time with the power play. Every practice I've seen, he's out there, and they are extremely talented. And if it doesn't work, it's going to be on him. So, but I agree with your prediction there, Mike. That's good stuff. Emma, what you got?
I would say, as far as like an individual player, I'm going to say Philip Forsberg reaches 50 goals this year.
Whoa.
I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility. I also think that Gus Nyquist is not going to take the step back that a lot of people are predicting or assuming is going to happen. I don't necessarily say that he takes another step forward, but I don't think he's going to see the kind of drop off after he had a career year at age 34. People were like, oh, well, that's lightning in a bottle. We're not going to get that again. I would not be surprised if he has another, like, he may like give or take a couple points, but like, I think he'll be close to that again.
You think he'll be a 70-point player again?
I think he could be.
What you're saying is you don't see much regression for the top line. If you're Michael, you're saying O'Reilly, Emma, you're going Forsberg and Nyquist. What you're saying is that despite all of them being slight outliers in their careers statistically, that they can replicate that. I think it's fair to expect a slight regression, but if it's not much, if it's not noticeable, then you guys will be right, and that line will be a clear dominant line. Nyquist is sort of the forgotten guy in all of this top 6, sort of top 9 conversation about the talent and the young players and the developing and Novak and Evangelista and the stars that came in. Nyquist is sort of just there and productive.
Well, much like we talked about last year with Forsberg finally having a coach that knows how to use him, I think the same is true for Nyquist. He finally has a coach that knows how to use him. It's a shame it took him until he was 33 for that to happen, but I don't think he's going to put up 23 goals and 75 points again. But I wouldn't be surprised if he was 65 to 70 points. I mean, especially if they keep that top line intact for the whole season, I think we could see them produce as much as they did last year, if not more. And especially because with what we think the second line is going to be, there's going to be more goals being scored, and the pressure is going to be off of them to go out there and do that. And this team, when the pressure is off, they tend to play a little bit better. So I could realistically see Nyquist. I don't know if he's going to hit 75 points, but I think somewhere up there is realistic.
I think among his best seasons is fair. I think that's fair. It doesn't have to be his best season because that would be almost statistically improbable. But among his better seasons professionally, I think that's a fair ask. It sounds like we're all way too positive about this team, so I'll be the Debbie Downer here because that's just positivity about Novak and O'Reilly and the power play. And
I had a negative one
Oh.
I had a negative one too. I was talking about my individual players. Those were positive ones, but
Oh,
I
so the
I
negative
have
one's
some
coming.
negative.
The negative's coming for the team.
I mean, I think
Wait,
that.
hold it. Save it.
Oh,
Save it. Save it. Save it.
okay.
Here's I'll do a slight negative one because it's been rattling around in my brain for the last week and a half, which is the expectations around the 3 big free agent signings is so great and so high among fans and among media and among everybody else in the world that it is almost impossible for the 3 of them to live up to it. I know they are getting paid to live up to it. They are veterans. They know how to sustain success, but it is almost impossible for statistically or for a team success, whatever it might be, whatever they're supposed to do well, it is almost impossible for the 3 of them as a group to live up to all of the expectations that have been placed upon them. And so whether it's Stamkos scoring 34 instead of 40, or Marchessault scoring 32 instead of 40, or Brady Shea, whatever it is, maybe I actually think, and Adam said this on Monday, I agree with him. I think Brady Shea is the one who has like a chance to take a step forward and actually be a better player than he's been in the past. I think asking 34-year-olds who are changing scenery to be almost as good as they ever have been last year is a lot to ask. I think fans need to temper expectations like a little bit, not a lot, because they are paid very well to compete for a championship. But I think it's almost impossible for those 3 to live up to the very lofty expectations that have been placed upon them by the outside world, if that makes sense.
I think if I had a negative one, it would go along with that. Like I think Marchessault tops out at 25 goals and maybe 50 points. I don't see him putting up 42 like he did last year. I don't see him getting in the 60, 65 because I feel like while I think that line's going to be productive, I think the bulk of the points and goals are going to be Stamkos because of just who he is. But I know most fans see Marchessault 42 goals last year and expect that production out of him. Vegas last year had a lot more offensive firepower than Nashville did. And like the potential is there this year, but I still think and the same thing can go for Stamkos too. Playing with a lot better supporting cast in Tampa Bay than he was if he would have been on this team last year. So that I think you take that into account too. But I don't see Marchessault putting up a boatload of goals like he did last year.
I kind of with you. I have Stamkos and Marchessault at 36 and 32. What do you guys think of that?
I think it's reasonable. I also think if you're Stamkos, 36 isn't really a regression from 40. I mean, yes, it's fewer, but it's not. If he was at 30, that's a 10-goal regression. But if you're 4 goals off of where you were last year, I don't really consider that being worse. It's just situational.
Yeah, no, I agree. Emma, you got 36, 32. Where are you at on that?
I think that's reasonable. Yeah, I would disagree slightly in that I think that Marchessault is actually. I think Marchessault has been overshadowed a lot in the conversation about the free agent signings with, Stamkos. I think Marchessault is going to have a big impact. I would say, and can I say my negative prediction now?
Is it about the team?
Yeah, well, it's about a section of the team. Yeah.
I don't know. You're breaking up the rundown here, Emma. It's very confusing. I don't know.
Okay.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I mean, it's kind of like linked to a specific player. Like we said, I don't expect Steven Stamkos to see a huge regression year over year, but I do think that his power play production will regress. And I think in part as a result of that, everyone's talking about on paper, the Preds top power play unit looks incredible. I don't think it's going to be as good as everyone thinks it is, at least, especially at the start of the year. I don't think that it's going to be like a top 5 power play unit like people are saying it's going to be. I think it's going to take them some time. They might get there, but I don't think that this power play is going to be in execution what it looks like on paper.
I'll get oddly specific. By game 51, their power play will be close to the top 10.
Oh, I think they're in the top 10. I just don't think it's top 5. So I kind of is that middle ground here? Where was it last year? Would it finish 16th last year?
16, yeah.
16, yeah.
I think it's like 9th this season. So it's clearly improved. It's clearly better. It's among the better power play units in the league, but it's not top 5. That's how I would look at it. Maybe 8th, maybe 9th. I think that's like the high water mark for them.
See, I would put it at like 10th. And I think that it's also going to take a minute for them to get there. I don't think they're going to come out the gate like raring to go.
I mean, we went through this same thing a couple of years ago when they signed Matt Duchene. I don't know if it was on specifically in this podcast. It might have been when I was on It's All Your Fault. But I remember saying, how can a power play with Matt Duchene, Ryan Johansson, Victor Arvidsson, Philip Forsberg, and Roman Josi not be a top 5 unit? And they struggled. And it took them probably about 30, 40 games before that power play started clicking, just because there was so much going on. There were so many moving parts. They interchanged a couple pieces and stuff. And I think it's the same thing now. It's like, how can a power play that has Stamkos and Marchessault and Forsberg and O'Reilly and Josi be bad? I don't think it's going to be bad. It's not going to be top 5 like everyone thinks right out of the gate, because this team has traditionally struggled with finding the chemistry, gelling together, whatever it is. And Andrew Burnett's system is a notoriously tough system to play. And I know Stamkos and Marchessault are veterans on a different level, but you're still adding in 2 new pieces coming in, trying to learn everything and play with all these guys. So it's going to take a little bit.
I agree. Did Matt Duchene say anything about why that power play struggled last night at the Gulch? Did he say anything about it?
I don't know. Let me text him and find out.
I'm gonna keep irresponsibly speculating until we find out what he was doing last night. Oh my God, so
he
good.
was plotting the seeds for his return to Nashville.
So good, so good, so good. Okay, all right. So I know it's a little long in the show here, but we got to make our official team predictions. Here was something from Adam from the other episode of the Gold Standard Extra to kind of give you a sense of where he thinks this whole thing is at. And if you want more from that, go subscribe to Lower Broad Hockey. If you want the Valley Sports Story, go subscribe to Lower Broad Hockey. If you want Emma's newsletter, if you want Michael's prospect guide, lots of great stuff at lowerbroadhockey.com. So here was Adam's sort of setting the tone for us to have a team conversation here for a few minutes to end the show.
Take advantage of. One thing that they can take advantage of is I do think that there are other traditional Western Conference powers that are going to be worse. I expect Vegas to take a step back. I expect Vancouver to take a step back. Like when I think about teams in the Western Conference who are clearly better than the Nashville Predators, like if you said this team or the Predators, and I'm quickly picking the other team, there's only 2 that I can think of: Edmonton and Dallas. That's it. Like Colorado is the one that I'm iffy on. Colorado, I'm like,
I mean, things could go wrong. You talk about best case, worst case. Things could go wrong for Colorado easily. Things could also be great for them. They're going to score a ton of goals.
What happens if Gabriel Landeskog can come back? I have questions about their supporting cast, but at the end of the day, they still have Nathan McKinnon and they still have Kel McCarr.
Yeah.
Like
goaltending is a question.
Goaltending. I mean, Georgiev played a ton of games. We'll see if he can be as solid as he was at points last year, but that works to the Predators' advantage.
All right, I'm going to start with the take there, which is Dallas and Edmonton, the only 2 teams in the Western Conference clearly better than Nashville. Agree? Disagree?
Say that again. Sorry.
Edmonton and Dallas, only 2 teams better than Nashville clearly in the Western Conference. Agree or disagree?
I'd go disagree. I don't think it's clear. I think potentially yes, but I have a different view than Adam. I don't think Dallas is better than Nashville. I think Colorado is. I do agree that the goaltending is a question mark, but like I pointed out on the last podcast, I have serious concerns about Dallas's defense because they lost a lot of key pieces. They lost Tanev, they lost Hakanpää, they lost Suter, and I know that they have Liam Bichsel, like we talked about. They have a couple other pieces that they added. I don't think Dallas. I think all things considered, Dallas got worse from where they were last year because there are serious questions about their defense. However, when you have a goaltender like Jake Ottinger that can steal games, and when you have the offense that they have, like, I could see them making a run, but I wouldn't say that they're better than Nashville is right now. And if you want to make that argument, I wouldn't say it's clear that they're better than Nashville. I think it's a coin toss.
So it's Edmonton in your mind, and that's it. Clearly, I
think Edmonton and Colorado, like Adam said, there's 2, but Edmonton and Colorado, not Edmonton and Dallas.
Okay, Emma.
Yeah, I say Edmonton for sure. I think Dallas, yes. I think Dallas is better than Nashville right now until they could very well prove me wrong. But I'm saying, like, if I had to bet on this right now, I would say, yes, Dallas is better than Nashville. Colorado, I'm kind of with Adam. I'm like, yes, I truly think that McKinnon, and to a degree McCarr, but especially McKinnon, is the great equalizer. I think that he can pull that. He's going to score a ton of points, and he can pull that team, into a win, like really whenever he needs to. And like, yes, goaltending's a question. that's the one area where I say, well, obviously Nashville's better than Colorado, but I just, to me, it's like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm like also maybe not as high on Nashville right now. I kind of want to, it's more that I'm like, I'm not trying to rain on anyone's parade. I'm just like, I'm antsy here. I want to see how they look against really good teams in games that actually matter, because we haven't really seen that yet.
Yep.
And so I don't know. I think that Edmonton by far, yes, is a better team. I agree. I think Vegas is taking a step back. I think Vancouver's taking a step back. I think Winnipeg's taking a really big step back. LA's taking a step back.
No, I think the Preds are no worse than fourth. I don't know if they're better than fourth in the Western Conference, though. That's my thought on the Preds currently.
Yeah.
All right, I said this.
I'll add in there too real quick before we move on. Dallas, they lost their second leading scorer in Joe Pavelski. Like, they have Jason Robertson. That was the only player they had that was above 65 points that's coming back. Colorado's got McKinnon and Rantanen both over 100 points last year. You have Cale Makar. Jonathan Duran had a really good year. He fits there. Like, there's so much talent. I think Colorado is deeper than Dallas is, and I just don't know if Dallas has the firepower coupled with the questions I have on defense. I just don't know if they, like, I can see them being good. I just don't think they're better than Nashville right now. You have tied for the most goals in franchise history last year. Then you add 2 40-goal scorers to that. Like, I know I just said I don't expect them both to be 40-goal scorers, but the offense for Nashville, the expectation is they're going to be a lot better. The defensive thing is a little bit weaker. I don't think if you're going roster for roster, I just don't think I believe that Dallas is better than Nashville is right now. On paper, of course, because the games haven't been played.
Fantasy hockey, guys.
And that's a fair point, but I will also counter with, right now, like, you talk about losing Pavelski, obviously that's a hit to their offense, but I think that offensively, Dallas is returning the majority of their team last year. Like, it's from last year. It's not going to be a massive shakeup. These guys are used to playing with each other. They kind of know the deal. Nashville, like, yes, they've added these great pieces, but we still can expect there's going to be a little bit of an adjustment period here. And I don't know how long that will be. It may be weeks, it may be months. Maybe they never figured out. I don't know. But I think that we have to take that into account and expect that Dallas could very well get off to like a hotter start than Nashville will, just because like they're kind of not breaking stride and coming in straight from last year. We saw how long it took the Predators to adjust to Andrew Burnett's system last year, more than half a season. So we might have to expect that from the new additions as well. So it really, to me, it's going to depend on how long it takes this group to really click. And I don't know the answer to that.
And I don't disagree. Like, I agree with all that. I will say there's the possibility Landeskog comes back. And also, if you're looking at the key departures for Colorado, I mean, Sean Walker was really their biggest one, and he wasn't even with them for the full season. Trenton, Riley Tuff, Brandon Nahame, like, they weren't really key parts. You look at Dallas's departures, Pavelski, Tanev, Suter, Hakanpää, Craig Smith, Scott Wedgwood, Ty Dellandrea. Like, a lot of those guys played key roles. And I know they have Casey DeSmith, so like the backup goaltending is kind of a wash, but you lost 3 of your defensemen. You lost your second leading scorer. Like, you lost a lot of the identity of that team. And I think Colorado is returning a healthier, not a healthier, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but they're returning a more succinct group. And then there's a possibility that Landeskog could come back. Like, I think there's too many factors in play for Colorado over Dallas.
Okay. All right. I like it. Michael has one team better. Adam has 2 teams clearly better. Emma,
I have 2 teams better. I have Colorado and Edmonton.
Oh, sorry, just a different team. And then you, Emma, you and I are kind of like a 4th place in the Western Conference, which is good. It's good to have different opinions because they're picked by Vegas to be 3rd. I picked them 3rd in the division on the Monday episode. I made all sort of my picks, but I want to get you guys to sort of officially put your markers down here. I want to know, because what's fascinating about all the teams we've just talked about is there's a very real chance that the Nashville Predators playoff path is going to be either Dallas or Colorado in the first round, either Dallas or Colorado in the second round, and Edmonton in the third round. So whatever they do or do not accomplish in the playoffs, it will be earned. They will accomplish. It will be fair and square. It will, unless they finish as a 1 seed, in which case they might avoid at least one of those teams. They're going to have to go through all 3 of those teams, probably, most likely, if they're going to make a run to a Stanley Cup championship, or at least the final. All right, 98.5 points is the over-under. That's the total of points. Are they over 98? They had 99 last year. Where are they? 98.5. You betting over?
Over.
Over, yeah.
Okay. Top 3 or 4 teams in the division, if you want to go ahead and give me your order. Official predicted finish. This is set in stone. No matter what you say, this is what we're going to talk about at the end of the year, if we're right or wrong. This is what matters at minute 1 hour and 11 minutes into the show.
I'm going to go. Oh, sorry. You can go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm still undecided. I do think Nashville finishes third, but
Decide.
Colorado and Dallas are ahead of them. Ugh. I'm going to go
That's fine.
Colorado, then Dallas, then Nashville.
Oh, she just changed her opinion on Dallas and Colorado in real time.
No, I said I'm undecided. Like, honestly,
Okay.
right now, it could go either way, but it's going to be those 2 teams ahead of Nashville.
I agree.
I'm going to go Colorado, Nashville, Dallas, and crazy off the wall prediction. I think Utah finishes 4th.
I do too.
Oh, yeah.
Damn it.
I do too.
This is terrible. The fact that all 3 of us have Utah finishing 4 means they're going to be terrible this year.
I will say I have Colorado first by like a significant margin, by like 5 or 6 points at least. I think Dallas and Nashville. I think Dallas finishes 3rd and Nashville finishes 2nd, but I see that being like a 2, maybe 3 point difference.
So I feel similarly, and I said this on Monday. I think I think Dallas finishes a few notches ahead, like let's say 108, and I've got Colorado and Nashville at like 102 and 101. Like basically a game deciding the second and third spots, which really is only home ice advantage at that point, which is important, but it's not that big of a deal. But I think Nashville's right with somebody, but I don't think they finish over the hump in the 2 slot. I think they finish in the 3 hole. So 47 wins is what they had last year. I think we're all kind of above that, right? If they're going to get to above 98.5, they probably have to go above that. What happens in the playoffs? Tell me what happens in the playoffs. If you've got them at 2 and you've got them at 3, they're playing either Colorado or Dallas in that series, probably.
I have them going to the conference final. I think it's if they're maybe this is just in my head, but I think if they're going to hit within the 4-year window, the first year is probably going to be one of their best opportunities. And maybe I'm just overestimating Steven Stamkos and Jonathan March or so, but I think they're going to fight tooth and nail to get to that conference final, because if you have either Colorado or Dallas in the first round, like it's going to be a dogfight. But I think they get there. I don't think they get to the Stanley Cup, but I think they at least make the conference final.
I have them out in the second round. I think they win a playoff series finally, but I think they lose in the second round.
So I said that they exercise some demons against Colorado in the first round. UC Saros plays, and they sort of get some payback on a team that they have played a number of times in the last few years in the playoffs. And I think they exercise some of that. Also, Colorado has been a worse playoff team than Dallas by a pretty large margin over the last 7 years outside of the one championship. They are a far better regular season team, and Dallas has been better in the postseason because they've consistently built on themselves each and every year. I think they need a break to get. If they need to avoid Edmonton, I don't think they can get to the Stanley Cup final if they've got to go through Edmonton. I think Edmonton's on a mission, and if they got to play Edmonton, Edmonton wins the cup. I think that's where they're going. I said this on Monday. How many players of Connor McDavid's status do not eventually win the cup? They always do. Everybody who's drafted 1 overall has got that kind of label, eventually wins a championship. And I think Edmonton's this year. I think Nashville, if they run into them in the conference final, they're screwed. Doesn't mean they don't play well. But I don't see them getting past Dallas in the second round. So I got them out in the second round as well. So set in stone. Now, here's my question to you first, Emma. What happens? What is the reaction if Nashville is eliminated in the second round by the Dallas Stars after beating, let's say, Colorado, or vice versa?
Oh, if they're eliminated by Dallas, the fans will revolt. I think, again, like, whose reaction? My reaction would be like, good, I was right. I mean, that's all I care about is being right. But I think that
I care about the clicks. That's all I care about.
Hey, I just don't like being wrong. Okay. So
never met anyone like that.
I mean, especially a woman. I think that the fans, knowing this fan base, I think they should be happy. Not happy. That I shouldn't say happy. That's too strong of a word. I think that they should look at making it to the second round as a success for this year, with higher aspirations for next year. But I still think, knowing this fan base, a lot of them are thinking kind of like conference final or bust right now. And I'm not saying a conference final is out of the question. Everything's on the table right now. Season hasn't started yet. But I think that looking at this kind of as like a 2 to 3 year project. And so I think you got to walk before you can run. And so I think that second round should be viewed as a success, but it probably won't, especially if they lose to Dallas.
So, Mike, if they lose in the first round, we all agree it will be viewed as a failure of a season, fair or unfair, because there's a lot of context we don't know about, injuries, sorrows, etc. What happens at the deadline? We just don't know the context of how a team gets to where it gets to. But in theory, generically, they lose in the first round again, they don't win a playoff series, this season will be viewed as a failure. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Even if it's a little harsh. If they get to the Western Conference Final, like you are suggesting, then I think it's viewed as a massive success. Only the second time ever to get there. It's very clearly a massive success. And I don't love tying an entire 12 months of executing a plan to like a couple of games in the second round. But that's what's happening here, because I really don't think, Michael, what do you think the reaction is if they lose in the second round? Because, again, if they don't get there, it's clear. If they get past the second round, it's clear how to define the season. How do you define the season? How do you think what's the reaction if they lose in 7 games to Dallas or Colorado in the second round?
I think knowing this fan base and interacting with them for the decade that I have, regardless of who they lose to, there's going to be about 20% that are like, you know what, we made progress. Next year is going to be our year. And there's going to be 80% that are just going to lose their shit because you signed Steven Stamkos, you signed Marchessault, you signed Brady Shea, you had all these expectations. Everybody is talking about the Predators as a legit Stanley Cup contender. You're getting the national attention and you're out in the second round because apparently somewhere along the lines, like getting to a second round playoff series is considered a big failure now for a lot of teams. So I think there's going to be the 20-80 split where 20%, and these are probably like the day one season ticket holders that are like, you know what, there's progress being made. Next year I could see being our year. Like there's a plan and they're sticking to it. And I think the other 80% are just going to lose their minds because it's like you won free agency and then you didn't really get much better. That's what they're going to do. I can't see. Oh, petty alert. Yes. I got
a dry erase board. I got props now.
We need some sound effects.
I know we do. It doesn't work as well on a podcast when I just hold up a sign.
Especially if you're not watching the video.
Petty alert, petty alert, petty alert. We do need a sound effect for like a petty alert. It's like a siren or something that goes
It's like
off.
a goal horn or something.
Yeah, that's right. One from like Calgary.
Yes.
It's really loud, obnoxious. Oh, gold standard's getting petty again. That's what we're doing. All right. Third round, Western Conference Final for Michael. Second round for Emma and I. Second place for Michael. Third place for Emma and I. There it is. It's in stone. We can't change it. It's official. The official predictions. Who wins the Stanley Cup?
Edmonton.
Man, this sucks for you, Edmonton. All three of us are picking you to win the cup. You guys are screwed. I agree. I think Utah is the story in the Central Division at the end of the year, though. They're the team that Nashville was last year, I think.
Yeah.
They got a lot of young talent, man. They're fun to watch, and the uniforms are good. So, all right. Anything else you want to add? Any crazy off-the-wall predictions about the season? Because now's your chance to do it.
Well, okay. I'll turn and ask you guys. What if Edmonton wins the cup? Who are they beating in the final from the East?
I cannot pick my childhood team to make it to the Stanley Cup final. I can't do it, which is the New York Rangers. Mike, you go first.
I don't know. My head says Bruins, but I feel like it's going to be the Rangers.
Bruins. That's a nice season for I look, my father's still a diehard Rangers fan. I grew up with Adam Graves and Mike Richter and Mark Messier, and I grew up with Brian Leach. I grew up with all those guys. Not like literally, that'd be weird. But I don't know if I could watch them play in the Stanley Cup final with Peter Laviolette coaching.
My prediction is it's going to be Edmonton, New York, and Edmonton's going to win.
You know who loves that idea? Gary Bettman.
Yes.
Gary Bettman likes that prediction. All right.
Yes.
Edmonton over New York, and we're all agreeing, which means neither team will get there. We've just permanently jinxed Laviolette, which is great. Good job. Otherwise, all right, there you go. lowerbroadhockey.com. Emma and Michael, where can the great folks find you guys?
You can find me on Twitter at Emma_Lingan.
Find me on Twitter at mgsports_, and all my stuff is at Lower Broad Hockey.
There you go, Kevin. Kevin says, I predict Braden will be back in the middle on the pod next week. I'm back in the middle right now. There you go. I got a Joker to the left of me and what's the other one to the right? All right. We're done. We're done. You guys enjoy the week. You guys enjoy the weekend.
You're done.
I have to take, my kids have been home all week, and I'm taking them on vacation this week because it's forced family vacation during fall break. So we're out of town. I'm really bummed. I'm going to miss the games this weekend, but 5 out of 6 at home. We'll be back next week on Monday. We got some predictions and stuff for you guys on the website coming up tomorrow. Emma's weekly newsletter on Fridays. Michael Gallagher at mgsports_. Go check out the prospect guide. It is a great reference tool, a great piece of content to have all season long. Make sure you check that out. Go read everything else. Subscribe to Lower Broad Hockey. Go to Shotgun Willie's, named after Willie Nelson. Go to Shotgun Willie's. Great brisket, great barbecue, great local community business. Go support them. And Sinkers Beverages for all your drinking needs after Matt Duchesne buys you a shot in the Gulch. All right. For everybody else on the pod, thank you for listening. Thank you for hanging out with us. Rate, review, subscribe. Enjoy the weekend. Hockey is back, and it fights everyone. We'll talk to you next week.